Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I stand to make my contribution to Budget 2022, uh, allow me first of all to express thanks to the hard-working public servants who have contributed to putting this together. I also wish to express best wishes to all Guyanese for the new year. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, allow me to also express condolences to Guyanese across Guyana who continue to fight an unprecedented wave of a pandemic we wish never happened. Mr. Speaker, as a geographical representative of the Potaro-Siparuni region, I wish to highlight the plight of the people of that region as they continue to struggle despite us now debating the biggest budget in the history of this country. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we wish to put on record. Before the former PPP Minister of Education, there was a program called the Literacy Program that was closed by people under our watch. Yes, Mr. Speaker, that's corruption. Budget 22 presents it under the theme, steadfast against all challenges, resolute in building our one Guyana. And that one Guyana, Mr. Speaker, has much promise and expectation by the ordinary Guyanese. Mr. Speaker, let me begin my contribution by addressing first public works in the region. And that, Mr. Speaker, hinges on the fact that we have two public honorable ministers. But I understand from the good books about the rapture, and I thought the Honorable Bishop can tell us more about the rapture. Two can be taken, two will be on the house top, one will be taken and the other left. Mr. Speaker, the APNU AFC, while in government, focused heavily on education in the interland infrastructure. The people of Region 8 would like to see a continuation of those initiatives such as maintenance of the roads and public buildings. Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years, the region has witnessed the deterioration of roads such as 17 miles, Tumatumari, Brian Super's Junction to Madja. It is dry now, Mr. Speaker, so it's all right. And Mr. Speaker, but when it rains, Mr. Speaker, the honorable ministers over there should walk the walk. Mr. Speaker, the enhancement of the roads will greatly improve the lives of people and the residents who traverse that route. Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Tender Board in Region 8, of course, I never reported a subject minister by way of pictures. Mr. Speaker, it was asked by the regional engineers to design a water system in the teachers' quarters, and so as to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that the teachers in the delivery of education will not be out of water on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, it took this person, another person, to ensure that that system was properly replaced. Mr. Speaker, At this juncture, I want to thank the David-led Granger administration of the APNU for delivering to the residents of Madhya infrastructure. Of course, Mr. Speaker, there was a campaign there where residents was asked if they were going to eat concrete road. Mr. Speaker, that is for. But what, Mr. Speaker, what we need to understand here is that there was a road prior to that. That road was built of tar and bricks. Of course, we welcome that under the PB. But it only lasted for 2 years. Now we have a road there, Mr. Speaker, with strong infrastructure that will last a lifetime and more. Thanks to that system of building proper infrastructure. The project, Mr. Speaker, was praised by residents who wish to see those days returning. Mr. Speaker, all the region had known was that piece of tar road from the secondary school to the RDC compound. And after that 2 years, it was slush and red dust once again. Mr. Speaker, the people are asking, are we going to return to those days? Luckily, Mr. Speaker, there's a continuation of the road from Wrongthorn Junction going to the airstrip. And I wonder, Mr. Speaker, why some of us in this house would dare walk on that road that was built by the APNU. It should haunt us. Mr. Speaker, one minister who spoke earlier mentioned that the APNU AFC had plans, Mr. Speaker. They had plans, but the PPPC delivered. Mr. Speaker, I wish to remind this honorable member that the water situation in Madhya was a bugbear. And I wish to say to this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, that the PPP had the plans, but it took the APNU AFC danger-led administration to deliver the goods to the people. And as we speak, Mr. Speaker, as we sit in this honorable house, water is delivered into the homes of the residents, including me. Mr. Speaker, there was a fire there in Madhya, and a fire hydrant was built. That's corruption. This fire truck or hydrant or whatever it was, Mr. Speaker, I am not sure where the engineering skills came from, but it would have taken a crane to lift that hydrant onto a tractor to take it to out fire. That was what was built by the PPP, Mr. Speaker. Now that particular fire hydrant used to service the residents in this school street. Now it is used today as we speak, Mr. Speaker, to deliver water for the building of a castle. One of 2 streets, Mr. Speaker, that is designed for the residents of Madhya. Instead of giving money Mr. Speaker, to the mayor and town council to build the roads necessary and the infrastructure for the people of that town. Honorable Minister there continues to flout the rules like he did when there was supposed to be the election of a regional chairman. And Mr. Speaker, he believed in the separation of powers. However, Mr. Speaker, that road is going to be built to service only a comrade, Mr. Speaker, a comrade who's going to build a disco for himself and his workers. But however, we welcome that because quite a few persons over there in that street will also benefit from the road. Mr. Speaker, education delivery. Mr. Speaker, education delivery is still a challenge in most remote communities in this region. There was a 1 laptop per family, Mr. Speaker, and this has given rise to the 1 laptop per teacher. Now, teachers were equipped with the skills and tools necessary, including myself, to deliver to children of schools. We are asking, Mr. Speaker, that this Honorable House use some of those resources available to education to facilitate special attention to the poor children, not only of Campbelltown, but the remote areas in Madio and the North Pacaraimans. Mr. Speaker, we like to see that every child, I want to encourage the Honorable Minister of Education to ensure that this is put in place. And I admire her for that. I know she will do that, Mr. Speaker. Make sure that every child gets a laptop with the necessary data so that they can benefit from education. This is a crime, Mr. Speaker, of all the people in the hinterlands. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention to something that was delivered. Like what, Mr. Speaker, some former honorable member said that the APNU planned and the PPP delivered. The water is one situation, Mr. Speaker, where PPP planned and APNU delivered. Mr. Speaker, permit me, Mr. Speaker, I will address Mr. Hamilton in a short while, honorable member. He will walk there with heavy security, but I wouldn't. Honorable member, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also call on this present administration to establish more wells, Mr. Speaker, for potable water for the remote communities of that region. These communities should include, Mr. Speaker, Princeville and the North Pacaraimans. Mr. Speaker, I wish to touch a little on capacity building. In preparation of this budget, Mr. Speaker, I wish to state clearly that the consultative process that was involved here was the signing of the documents. And that's why some changes had to have been made because, Mr. Speaker, this is how it is done in Maja and Region 8. I was part of this, Mr. Speaker, where the REO will come and send things for you to sign and you don't know what you're signing.
What bonus are you talking about?
Mr. Speaker, I wish to state clearly that we need to have parliamentary involvement in everything we do. Mr. Speaker, democracy is not only winning an election, but is also about good and inclusive governance. Until this administration is serious about this consultative process, the people will continue to pay in spite of the vindictiveness of this present administration. Mr. Speaker, I wish to highlight that during the selection of the regional chairman, and the honorable member, Mr. Darlans, ought to know about this, is that when the REO meets with his councillors, they select the chairman, and then in private, of course, or in camera, and then bring it and announce it to the public. I was there, Mr. Speaker, to say that that process was not honored. No, I wasn't even recognized by you. In fact, I was only given a bottle of water there, Mr. Speaker. That's all they did. Mr. Speaker, I wish to highlight that during this election, the regional chairman, it was autocratic intervention by this minister of local government, and obviously cooked up because he separated the folks. Some stayed at Roger Hotel and the others stayed at Bash, so that they could have done what they were supposed to do to ensure the regional chairman is given that privilege. Mr. Speaker, that's corruption. Bad governance. The honorable minister does not believe, even though he practices it. However, in this budget provision, Mr. Speaker, there should be a provision for capacity building. We need to retrain these people so they can understand where we ministers go wrong. Mr. Speaker, Maja has great potentials for the development in the hospitality industry. Having said this, I now call on the government to make provision for the development of this sector. where, Mr. Speaker, training is an integral part for the creation of jobs in that industry. Mr. Speaker, I now call on this administration that there's something that I think that is void in this budget, Mr. Speaker. There needs to be upgrade in roads from Monkey Mountain to PK, Mango Landing to Madio, Kanuruk to Blackwater.
Honorable member, as you sort out the geography, we will need to give you an extension.
Thank you, Comrade Chairman. Comrade Chairman, I move that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to conclude.
Thank you, honorable member. You can continue with your presentation and conclude in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think what is needed in this budget is because there's a period that travels from Princeville to Maggio. The cost of transportation is $7,000. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to join with these members on this side of the House, except to say to this honorable House that this budget needs to be redone and take into consideration the wishes of the people of Region 8. Thank you very much.